What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We have UFC 278, Kamaru Usman going against Leon Edwards 2. Should be a very fun fight card. We have 13 fights on it. And I think we're going to get some violence this weekend. So as always, I am here with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to this card?
I'm definitely looking forward to this card. As you are painfully aware, Brady, we are on an 11-week stretch that culminates a 12-week stretch that ends with this card. As a content creator, it's been an absolute nutcracker, but the light is here at the end of the tunnel, and guess what? It's a pay-per-view card headlined by one of the best fighters that's ever set foot in the octagon here in the UFC, in Kamaru Usman. Can't wait for this main card. There are some bangers on the prelims as well. What a way to finish off a 3 straight month stretch of UFC. So I'm fired up, man. The light's at the end of the tunnel. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready for the week off even more, but this is a great card. So this is a great way to finish off this stretch.
Yep, and big announcement. It is officially Harry Hunsucker week, everybody. We've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Harry Hunsucker making his light heavyweight debut. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC. I think he at light heavyweight could definitely cause some problems there. But Weezy, again, it is Harry Hunsucker Fight Week. You looking forward to that? And then also do a quick recap of last night. Just a crazy, wild night. But I know you made out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's Harry Hunsucker Fight Week. I've been saying it for months, Brady, that when this guy cut down to 205, that he was going to put the entire light heavyweight division on notice, and that every single person that fought in that weight class was fucked. And It's happening this week, baby. Tyson, Pedro, you're going to get your ass shaved. Harry Hunsucker is coming to take what's his, and that is the 205-pound strap. So, Glover Teixeira, who thinks he's going to be getting it back off of Jerry Prochaska, everybody in that top 5. You better have eyes on the screen when Harry steps into the cage here on Saturday. I'm fired up for this. And, it was a good week for me, Brady. Let me just first say the result. I was up 4.11 units, one of my best weeks of the year. But let me tell you about what I learned this week, okay? Because I'm not doing a victory dance. We realize as gamblers, what we do is out of our hands. It's in the hands of the fighters. It's in the hands of the judges. It's in the hands of the referee, and we can't predict the future. We make the best reads we can. I came into this week, I made my reads, I placed my bets, and then I looked at my bets. And here's what I learned, Brady, and I hope that this can be valuable to everybody out there. I had a 4.5 unit money line bet on Marcin Budaj. I had a 2.5 unit bet because the line moved so much on the fight doesn't go to decision for Budaj versus Brzeski. So I had 7 units on that fight. And I said to myself, man, if Lucas Brzeski wins by decision, I'm going to be out 7 units. So the line moved. I got fight doesn't go to decision at minus 125. And it was way out of whack with the rest of the market. So I smashed it for 2.5 units. Then it went too far the other way. And on Bet Online, I was able to get fight goes to decision for that fight at plus 180. And if I arbed out there, I could guarantee myself 0.4 units profit. And I said to myself, okay, Weezy, if this goes tits up and Martin Budaj loses a decision to this bum, you're going to be out 7 units. So why don't you reduce your exposure on that fight and just take the fight goes to decision at plus 180, guarantee yourself 0.4 units of profit there, and then you just have the 4.5 unit money line bet with Budaj. I didn't watch that fight, but I heard Lucas Brzeski got robbed, absolutely robbed, and that Budaj looked absolutely terrible and fought one of the dumbest fucking game plans that you could possibly imagine anybody to fight. And that's what happened. And I would have lost 7 units had I not arbed out of that bet and had the judges not been corrupt assholes that fix fights, okay? But this time I was on the right side of it. And then I also had a 2-unit money line bet on Yasmin Yaregi. I had a 0.75 unit bet on the fight doesn't go to decision for that fight. So my exposure was like almost 10 units on the Budai fight, which was a low-level heavyweight fight, and then the Yaregi fight, which was a women's 115-pound fight with two debuting fighters. So what I learned was look at your own bets through a very honest lens, and when you're overexposed, don't be afraid to take the other side. Don't be afraid to reduce your exposure and say, I don't want to be looking at myself at the end of the night if this goes tits up. So I got my ass saved by the judges there in the Badai fight. I also had a quarter unit on Tyson Nam to win by knockout. Thank you, Brady, for calling that one out on your best bet show, because I got that bet in late and tracked it, and it cashed. Had a quarter unit on Jason Witt by decision. That did not cash. And then I had that 2-unit bet on Yari Gi that cashed, and then a 0.75 unit on the fight doesn't go to decision. So because I arbed out, because I got lucky with the judges, I wound up 4.11 units. But I learned a lot about, exposure and not being overexposed to the wrong kinds of fights, Brady. So, yeah, I got out with my shirt. It was a good week. How did it go for you, brother?
Yeah, so my night pretty much came down to Lupi Godinez ruining it for me. Also had the fight doesn't go in the Budai fight. That didn't help. I'm not entirely sure what I watched for those two fights, honestly, but last night was the first time this year where I was tempted to smash my TV with a baseball bat and potentially throw my phone into the Ohio River, thanks to Lupi Godinez and her incredible game plan against Angela Hill. I had Martin Budai and Lupi Godinez in a parlay, and both showed some horrible fight IQ in back-to-back fights. And watching those fights took several years off my life. I now identify as a 34-year-old man after sitting through that horse shit excuse of fight IQ that was displayed last night. I had to look myself in the mirror last night and say to myself, I parlayed Lupi Godinez with Martin Budai, and I'll say it right here on camera for everyone to hear. I parlayed Lupi Godinez with Martin Budai. So I looked up some synonyms, right, for the word Lupi, and some of the results I found were shocking. And it was shocking because it was very fitting to the game plan and the fight IQ she showed last night. I will now put these synonyms up on the screen for the viewers to read here. They are now up on the screen. So some synonyms for Lupi. If you guys don't know, synonyms means like the same or almost the same or to exact word. So we'll kind of go through these quickly here. So the first one is insane. Only 3 takedown attempts is insane. The next one, absurd. What an absurd game plan by Lupi Godinez. Silly. Boy, do I feel silly after betting Lupi there. Now, this one is my favorite. Ludicrous. Ludicrous. Now, that's just plain ludicrous. And you know what? From now on, I'm actually going to refer to Lupi as ludicrous. Ludicrous Godinez. Lupita Ludicrous Godinez. Love it. And finally, ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Those were some synonyms for Lupi, and it all makes sense now why Lupi is her nickname. Is Lupi Godinez a bum because she lost to a 37-year-old, 13-12 Angela Hill? No. Is Lupi Godinez a bum because she attempted 50 takedowns, 50, in her first 5 fights in the UFC, but only attempted 3 last night? No. Is Lupi Godinez a bum because Angela Hill attempted twice the amount of takedowns she did, Hill attempting 6, Godinez 3? No, she's not a bum. Am I a bum for parlaying Lupi Godinez with Martin Budai? Yes. Yes, I am. Lupi Godinez showed very bad fight IQ in the cage, and I showed very bad betting IQ by putting her in a parlay with Martin Budai, and I'm going to have to live with that life decision for the rest of my days. I'm going to pass this story right here down to my grandkids one day, and I'll be damned if they make the same mistake I did. Grandpa! tell the story about when you bet Lupi Godinez as a minus 325 favorite and she completely shit the bed. Sit down, son. This will take a while. I'm going to wake up screaming in the middle of the night at 3:25 a.m. each night. Why 3:25 a.m., you ask? Because I parlayed Lupi Godinez as a minus 325 favorite, and that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. But as I always say, you don't lose, you learn. And I learned a very valuable lesson last night. Don't parlay Lupita Ludicrous Godinez. But it could have been much worse, though. I did hit a max bet on the Vera scorecards equals no action at minus 325. And that bailed me out a little bit, but still a losing night regardless, thanks to you, Lupi Godinez. But yeah, Weezy, this card should be fun, though. We have a lot of good fights to look forward to this week. Any initial thoughts on this card?
Yeah, I mean, like, so it looks like there's a lot of names on the undercard that a lot of people aren't going to know, but there are some really good fights. The Lacerda Altamirano fight should be a really fun one. AQ against Jay Perrin is going to be really fun. Albazi Figueiredo. I hope Albazi makes it to the cage because we haven't seen this dude in a very long time, but I'd like to see him get back in there. Fletcher against Lucie, Woodson against Saldaña. I'm really looking forward to seeing Sean Woodson in there again. That guy looked like a savage his last time out. So, this is a great card. And then when we get to that main card, there are some serious fights there. So really looking forward to this one.
Sounds good to me. All right, before we get into it, guys, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. And as always, let us shout out the chat real quick. I'll try to get to as many of as possible. The chat is kind of blowing up here, trying to scroll up, and we're finally there. MMA Propaholic in the building, Real Deal Prime. We have Kiwi, we got Lou Betcha, we got Mike in the chat, Papa Chuck, we got Nigel Lee, we have Mushroom in the chat, PSSA, Andy G. We have Tajik Bay, the GOAT in the chat. We got Worth It. We have Speedy Woods. See if I missed anybody. SD Crusader, trying to get as much of you as possible. Take no prisoners. I see you in there, Dan Goldstein. We do have a couple donos in here as well. We have Kiwi with the $10 dono. Appreciate you, Kiwi, saying, "LOL, Brady, go easier on yourself, mate." Hey, we gotta live. We live and we learn. And I definitely learned my lesson last night. Appreciate you for the dono, Kiwi. And then we got Tajik Bay with the dono saying, "From all the Dominic Cruz value better." Yeah, Dominic Cruz was looking very good early, but that was kind of expected, right? And then Vera started turning it on, and Vera eventually got that 4th round knockout. Beautiful head kick. Appreciate you for the dono, Tajik Bay. All right, and then I think we got another. No, I think we're all caught up here. All right. Oh, we do got another one. Tajik saying, "From all the Onama is lock betters with love." Yeah. Nama was a lock last night. Apparently, I heard a lot of Lupi. Godinez was a lock last night. Nothing in MMA is a lock. That is for sure. All right. Tajik throwing some shots. I don't know at who, but he is throwing those shots. All right. We will start with the first fight of the night. We have Miranda Maverick going against Shanna Young, the Shanimal. I cannot wait for this fight. I was up late last night taping this fight because I was so excited to get into it. We have Miranda Maverick, 25 years old, 5'3", with a 65-inch reach. Shanna Young, 31 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach. Maverick, 6 years younger, and it's going to be Young with a 4-inch height advantage. Same reach there. Maverick is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Made her debut against Luana Jojua, won by knockout. She won by decision against Jillian Robertson. Lost a decision to Macy Barber. A decision to Erin Blanchfield, and then she submitted Sabina Maza her last time out. As far as Shanna Young, she did fight on the Contender Series against Sarah Alpar. She got submitted, I believe, in the 2nd round there. She also lost to Macy Chiasson by decision, lost by knockout against Stephanie Egger, and then did pull off the upset her last time out against that bum Gina Mazzani as well. So, yeah, Weezy, this is actually a rematch. Went back and watched their first fight. It didn't last long. Maverick took her down. And once she got her down, the fight was over shortly after. Shanna Young, like she does the majority of the time, gives her back. And Maverick is very good at taking the back. Maverick got her down. Shanna Young gave her back. And Maverick was able to take the back and eventually choke her out shortly after. And I kind of see it playing out the same way here. Shanna Young, her takedown defense is actually pretty solid. It's just once the fight hits the mat, there's going to be a clear grappling advantage here from Miranda Maverick. And, honestly, when I saw this was booked, I was kind of confused. It seems like a big step down for Miranda Maverick, who was fighting the Macy Barbers of the world, the Erin Blanchfields. But I guess they wanted to see this rematch for some reason. But yeah, I think Miranda Maverick passes this one with flying colors, unless she comes out there with a Lupita Godinez game plan and doesn't choose to wrestle. But I think Maverick is smart enough, gets this fight down to the mat, and when she does, she's the much, much better grappler. She's dangerous on the mat. I think she submits Shanna Young and does in the very first round. Weezy, how do you feel about this very first fight of the night?
Yeah, I mean, even if she doesn't take down Shanna Young, she's probably the better striker too. I mean, Shanna Young's not great at anything at this level. Even Mazzani was tearing her up before she just completely emptied the tank like she does in every fight in the first round. So, this is pretty much Miranda Maverick's fight any way she wants it. She's already beat her. She's got the better strength of schedule. She's got the better striking metrics. She's got the better grappling metrics. She's got 2 more pro fights and more experience at the UFC level. She's 6 years younger, and she's a southpaw, better finisher, more durable. I mean, how does Shanna win this fight? I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, I guess it's already baked into the line. So there's really no reason to go overboard on this fight here. This is the curtain jerker. Miranda Maverick should absolutely get the job done. We haven't seen her in a minute. It's been a minute since that Mazo fight. So we'll have to see. And then also, I just wanted to call attention to one stat here, because both of these ladies are being out-controlled in control time, but Miranda Maverick's been controlled for 31% of her UFC career, and that is about 17 total minutes, but I think 14 minutes of that was in the Blanchfield fight. So, I mean, people really aren't taking down Maverick and controlling her unless they're elite, submission grapplers like Aaron Blanchfield is. So, yeah, I don't really see much ways for Shanna to win this fight. It should be Miranda Maverick all day.
Yep, I agree. And I was actually tempted to max bet Miranda Maverick, and I probably should have, because that line got smashed. I was tempted to max bet it at minus 340, ended up kind of waiting and paid for it because she's now minus 500. And I think it only continues to get wider and wider. Maverick opened up minus 350, currently minus 500. Shanna Young opened up plus 285, and she is currently plus 385. I'm going to be looking at Maverick inside the distance, Maverick by sub, hoping to get a good line on that because this is women's MMA. But that's really going to be the only way I'm going to be attacking this. And by the way, Weezy, we do not have lines out for really any props besides a little bit on the main event.
Yeah, shame on all the books for not getting props out in time for Stat Diggers. It's almost as if they want to hear what we think first so that they can set these lines and screw over good people like us who are just trying to make a living betting on MMA. So shame on them. This is a pay-per-view card. We're here on Stat Diggers after 11 straight weeks of UFC going into the 12th, Brady. We're both tired, but, at least we're here doing our job. How about bookies? You do your job. Shame. Shame.
Shame. Tajik Bey still going after people. I don't know who you're going after, Tajik, but saying from all the Ode Osborne should be minus 1,000. I hope nobody said that. And by the way, I was checking Bet Online last night, and Ode actually closed on Bet Online as the biggest favorite on the entire card. He closed around like minus 450. Like money poured in on Osborne last second. So that's a shame as well. But yeah, appreciate the dono, Tajik. It does mean a ton. All right. We'll move on to the next fight here. We have Daniel Lacerda, a.k.a. Daniel Da Silva, going against Victor Altamirano. We have Lacerda, 26 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Altamirano, 31 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Lacerda, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Jeff Molina, lost that fight by second-round knockout, and then he got submitted against the Bad Figgy in the very first round, the very first minute. Victor Altamirano, he was on the Contender Series, had that controversial win against Carlos Candelario in a fight that pretty much everybody thought he lost. I thought he lost, but ended up getting the decision. And then they also gave Candelario a contract as well. And then he lost a decision against Carlos Hernandez. So this is a really tough fight for me to call, Weezy, because Lacerda's been in the UFC. He has 2 UFC fights, and I still have learned nothing about him.
Yeah.
Against Molina, he came in there in the first 30 seconds. He looked good. His striking looked very good. He looked powerful. And then he was able to take Molina's back. He got Molina in a little bit of trouble, and then Molina was able to kind of get out of those positions and land some ground and pound. And once that fight, the second round, you saw Lacerda standing there, and he looked done. But then because he wasn't familiar with the second round. He doesn't really go to the second round that often. He's a killer-be-killed fighter. His fights tend to end very early. And then in the Figgy fight, we learned nothing as well. He went in there, gets the fight down to the mat, and then he gets submitted in a minute against the bad Figgy. So, and then you take a look at his fights outside the UFC, and there's 2 fights available to watch. One, he lands like a head kick, and then another fight, he gets a submission off his back. So I still don't know a ton about Daniel Lacerda other than he seems to be very dangerous on the feet. He seems to be very dangerous on the mat. He's a brown belt. He's training with Charles Oliveira and them. I think, he seems to be skilled, but I just need to see a little bit more. And I also have concerns about his cardio. I have concerns about his fight IQ. I have concerns about what happens if this fight gets extended. And then I go and take a look at Victor Altamirano, and I wish I made like tallies every time this guy got taken down. I went and watched like 4 or 5 fights. He had to been taken down like 50 times. Like, this guy's takedown defense is completely horrendous. Horrendous. Was taken down a ton. On the Contender Series, is taken down in his UFC debut as well. And even like outside the UFC, he's getting taken down little to no resistance. He has a black belt in BJJ. He is going to have the cardio advantage. But I think on the feet, it's probably going to be Lacerda landing the harder shots. I think Lacerda is the more dangerous fighter. But the reason I can't pick Lacerda here is of the cardio. I don't trust his cardio. I don't trust his fight IQ. If Altamirano is able to survive to that second round, he should take over and win the fight. But honestly, I'm not impressed with Altamirano, especially considering when we talk about the line in a little bit, because he is a decent-sized favorite here. So we'll talk about what I'm looking at from a betting perspective in a bit. But Weezy, how do you feel about this fight? It's still hard for me to gauge, how good or how bad Daniel Lacerda is.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you broke it down perfectly. I mean, what do we really know about Daniel Lacerda? There's no tape on 10 of his fights. He's got 14 fights and 43 minutes of cage time. That's 3.07 minutes per fight. So, I mean, what we do know about Lacerda is that he doesn't see third rounds. He's not durable. He's looking to kill you very early. And if he's unable to achieve that goal, he's going to look for the door and find it quickly. And Altamirano, this what makes this fight almost unbettable is the fact that Altamirano is a guy who is happy to let the fight go on. He's not looking to finish people really, and he doesn't. Only a 50% finish rate, but and he's been finished by sub in one of his 2 losses. But he's not finishing people at this level. And both of his fights at the UFC level have went to decision. So Lacerda is going to be able to take down Altamirano if he wants to, but Altamirano keeps getting back up. And I think that, this fight probably does finish inside the distance, but it's kind of hard to count on Altamirano to finish anybody at this level. Yeah. So, I mean, the stats really don't tell us anything because we have 7 minutes of cage time for Lacerda. We have 30 for Altamirano. And there's just nothing really jumping out at me here other than the fact that we know Lacerda. We know nothing about this guy. So I'm probably going to stay very far away from this fight. If they screw up and put this fight or like under 2.5 at around even money, that's something I would be willing to jump on because Lacerda is such a killer be killed fighter. But other than that, this is a very hard fight to handicap.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think, the under could be a good look here. And I have a feeling, I don't know. I have a feeling we might get good money on it because Altamirano has been to decision his last 2 fights. But you take a look at Lacerda, and he's been to the second round twice. He's never been to the third round. And this is in what, 14?
Yeah.
14 professional fights. Never been to the third round, never been over 2.5. He's been to the second round twice. Only been over 1.5 just once in his entire career. So I think, the under at plus money is something I'm highly considering. And even like the finish only or the scorecards equals no action, if it's decent money for Lacerda, like I don't hate a shot on that. Lacerda is the more dangerous fighter out of the 2. He does seem to have a lot of power on the feet, and he is very dangerous on the mat by the looks of it as well. But from a money line standpoint, I don't really want to touch anything here. And I don't really want to touch Altamirano at this price tag. So he opened up as a minus 192 favorite, and he's currently minus 192. That is the best price out there by a mile. Looks like he's minus 215 on FanDuel, minus 225 out there. And then Daniel Lacerda is plus 167. I don't know. I'm staying far away from this one, Weezy, for the most part, outside of maybe some props that stick out.
Yeah, this could be a good spot to hit some props because the line's already kind of wide, and we know Lacerda's a finisher. So maybe Lacerda inside the distance, like you said, Lacerda finish only. Altamirano decision only could be a really cheeky play if it's not too pricey. Because I mean, has Lacerda ever won a minute? I mean, this guy's putting people out in a minute and a half most of the time. I mean, so. I don't see how he wins a decision. I mean, he could completely change the way he fights. He's still only 26 years old, but there's a lot of unknowns in this fight. So I think the best way to approach it is to take small little prop sprinkles if you're looking for some action on the fight.
Yeah, and I do think the line's kind of wide on Altamirano. I mean, but I'm not running to the window to bet on Lacerda. I don't think he has the best fight IQ. He reminded me of Michel Pereira in his last fight against Figgy. He came out there with like a big dance routine, was dancing all around, and then gets submitted in the first round by Francisco Figueiredo. Like, how are you about to dance, like, and then get submitted by Fig? I can't believe it. But yeah, anyway, not gonna be touching that fight. We do have some donos here. Let's see what we got here. We got Anthony Rivera Medina saying, so sad I put my money on Lucie. A lot of people did, including me. I did a whole rant there. I did lose 2 units on that myself. Did not feel good there. And then Tajik Bey with another dono saying, for all the Cynthia Calvillo will wrestle this time. Oh, she never wrestles. She never wrestles, Tajik. Come on. Appreciate the donos, guys. All right, we'll keep moving on here. We have Arichi Long going against Jay Perrin. And yes, I spent all of last night practicing this name here. Arichi Long, and I think I got it down to a T. We have Arichi Long going against Jay Perrin. Arichi Long is 29 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach. Jay Perrin, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach. Arichi Long is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Jeff Molina. Very fun and exciting fight there. Lost by decision, had his moments. Lost the decision against Cody Durden. Once again, had his moments. And then knocked out Cameron Else. I believe, Weezy, that was your ass shaving of the week last time out. And he absolutely shaved the ass of Cameron Else. Yeah. Jay Perrin is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut on short notice against Mario Batista. So went and watched a good amount of tape on Jay Perrin. And what I like about him is he has a process to his game. He seems to have very good fight IQ. He seems to know what he wants to do in there, unlike Lupita Godinez. He goes in there and goes for takedowns. You know, he may not be the best wrestler in the world, but what he does is he's relentless with it. He goes in, he pushes opponents against the cage. He goes for takedowns. If he doesn't get the first one, he goes for a second. If he doesn't get the second, he goes for a third. He's relentless, and he has the cardio to be relentless. I've seen him in a 5-round fight before, so I do like that. Arichi Long, this guy is a guy that likes to get into wars. He likes to get into brawls, and on the feet, I do favor him, and he's the much, much harder hitter in this matchup. But I think this one could be interesting here. Jay Perrin is going to go for those takedowns. We did see Arichi Long struggle against Cody Durden, and Cody Durden is the much better wrestler between him and Perrin, but Perrin definitely has the better cardio than Durden, and also that Durden fight was at 125 pounds. This is at 135 pounds, and I believe this is Arichi Long's second fight at 135 pounds. His first one was against Cameron Else, but this is definitely going to be a tougher test. And on paper, I see this being fairly competitive. I think Perrin can potentially have success with the takedowns. I think he has the cardio to push that pace. And on the feet, I think Arichi Long hits like a truck and potentially have some success there. So Weezy, very fun fight here. Definitely looking forward to this one.
Really good one. And I've been really impressed with what I've seen from AQ. I always thought it was Aori Kwai Lang, and then I was like, I learned that I was horribly wrong about that pronunciation. And it doesn't phonetically work for me, the correct pronunciation. So I'm calling this dude AQ. It's so much easier. But he's got 14 more fights than Jay Perrin, 2 more at the UFC level. And I've been very impressed with what I've seen from AQ. The dude hits really hard, like you said. He can definitely wrestle, and he's tough. He's just a scrapper. That Jeff Molina fight was a classic. What a great fight. And you go back and you watch that fight, and you're like, damn, man, that fight launched Molina's career, and there's a lot of heat on Molina right now, and the dude's winning. I think he's 4-0 if you include his Contender Series fight, right? So he's hot right now. But man, he stole that from AQ a little bit, dude. He got a knockdown at the end of the second round. I thought he lost that first round, and even the third round, AQ's landing big shots in the last 20 seconds. He had Molina on skates. That fight was very 50-50. So I like I like what AQ does. He's very well-rounded. He's a scrapper, tons of power, good wrestling. And then when Jay Perrin came in, it's easy to think when somebody comes into the UFC, fights a dude like Mario Batista on less than a week's notice, it's easy to write someone off, But man, this dude can fight. He's good everywhere. And like you said, he seems to actually go in there with a game plan, which is something that you really appreciate after having money on Lupe Godinez, after having money on Martin Budai, after placing bets on guys who seem to throw their fight IQ out the window. It's nice to see somebody like Jay Perrin come in here, make a debut on short notice, show great conditioning and great toughness, and he got 6 takedowns. Well, I mean, he didn't get 6 takedowns in that fight, but he's gotten 6 takedowns between his Contender Series fight and between the Batista fight, which he took on short notice. He just looks like he's very well-rounded and can handle wherever the fight goes and look good there. So this is going to be a good fight. AQ, thus far, having fought, Durden and Molina, has definitely fought the better competition. But Perrin's been around a little bit longer as a pro, and the Chinese regional scene much different than what Jay's been dealing with here on the East Coast. So this is a very good fight. Definitely looking forward to it. I might be leaning AQ here, but I'm not going to short Jay Perrin. He showed me a lot. Very impressive performance on short notice against a stud in Mario Batista, who's 4-2 in the UFC, and just actually submitted Brian Kelleher in the very first round in his last fight and made it look easy. So big ups to Jay Perrin for stepping in on short notice and putting forth a really impressive performance in a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a sneaky angle on this fight could be the over 2.5 rounds. We did see Richie Long kill Cameron Else, but as we know, that's Cameron Else. Jay Perrin in 15 professional fights has never been knocked out. He has a very, very good chin, and we're not going to question the chin of a Richie Long as well. So he has a phenomenal chin. And then they're combined 46 professional fights. Neither guy has been knocked out. I'm hoping because of Richie Long did go through Cameron Else, we might get a playable number on the over 2.5. But I'm going to rely on these guys' toughness and look at the over 2.5, Weezy.
Yeah, that's not a bad look because, like you said, Perrin has only been finished once in 13 fights, and it was by submission. And Quileng, it's 38% of his losses were by sub. But, like some of these guys in China, they fight one week and then they're fighting the very next week or 2 weeks later. So, I mean, they have more losses on their records just because they're always fighting. So Perrin, 13 fights in 8 years. Quileng, 27 fights in less than 7 years. So, I mean, he's just been a lot busier. But, now that he's at the UFC level, he gets to take his time between fights. He's not fighting every month. So going to be a very interesting one. But with Perrin having never been finished and Quileng only being submitted on the regional scene a long time ago, I think it's a good look.
Yeah, for sure. Some more donuts here. Tajik Bey saying from all the Devin Clark CLV better. Yeah, they did beat some line movement there on that one. Tajik also saying from all the Cheeto Vera is a square bet. Sharps with love. Tajik Bey is throwing some shots, man. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, appreciate the donos. Thank you for hanging out, Tajik Bey. That is why you are the GOAT. All right, move on to the next fight. We have Almir Albazi going against Francisco Figueiredo. We have Albazi, 28 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. Figueiredo, 32 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. Albazi, 4 years younger. Figueiredo with a 1-inch height advantage, and Figueiredo with a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Almir Albazi is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He did make his debut against Malcolm X Gordon, won that fight by first-round submission, and then won a decision against Zalga Sumagulov. As far as Francisco Figueiredo, 3-1 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Jerome Rivera, won that fight by decision, lost the decision to Malcolm Gordon, and then submitted Daniel Lacerda in his last fight. So I guess the biggest thing here for me is we have not seen Albazi in quite some time. We have not seen him in 1 year, in 6 months, which is a shame because this is a guy that I'm extremely high on. This is a guy that is extremely impressive in and outside of the UFC. He made his debut against Malcolm Gordon, like I said, and I was expecting him to knock out Malcolm Gordon like everybody does. But no, he actually submitted Malcolm Gordon, who was a black belt. I believe Albazi was a purple belt at the time. And I was like, okay, yeah, whoa, that's good. And, he is a good grappler, and he does have a lot of power. And I feel like he wins this fight pretty much everywhere, honestly. On the feet, Albazi should be the better striker. Figueiredo, he's so low volume, like some of the lowest volume you'll ever see in your life. He's landing only 1.98 significant strikes per minute, 0 knockdowns in his 3 UFC fights, which is concerning because 2 of those guys he fought were Malcolm Gordon, worst chin in the division, and Jerome Rivera, who used to have one of the worst chins in the division, but he got cut. So no knockdowns against him, no volume, and the cardio is poor as well. I think the grappling could be interesting here. Figueiredo does seem to be a good grappler, but it's just his cardio is so bad, and he does fall off a cliff as the fight goes on. We saw Malcolm Gordon have success late and take him down and control him in that 3rd round. We saw Jerome Rivera win the 3rd round on all 3 judges' scorecards against Francisco Figueiredo. Jerome Rivera. So I think Albazi has him covered pretty much everywhere. I'm not really worried about a knockout here on the Figgy side. I guess, Figgy would have to potentially catch him in something off his back, but I think Albazi should have the advantage on the feet, landing more volume, should be the clear minute winner on the feet, and then taking down Figueiredo, getting on top, controlling him. And as the fight goes on, Figueiredo is going to slow down. Albazi's not. I like Albazi here quite a bit, and he is a big favorite, but I think he's a big favorite for a reason. But he has not fought in a long time. 1 year and 6 months off. I'm not sure to why, Weezy. If you know, you can let me know, but he has not fought in quite some time now.
Yeah, I think he's had to pull out of a couple of fights. I mean, we could look on Tapology, always has the reasons, but I know he's had a couple of fights scheduled, but, the guy's getting hurt a lot. Amir Albazi's been a pro since he was 15 years old. But in those 13 years that he's been a pro, he only has 15 fights. So he's very inactive, and he's probably getting injured a lot, because he's still only 28 years old. This guy could absolutely make a run. He's undefeated in the UFC at 2-0. He's 14-1 overall. The guy's a fantastic prospect. And we've already seen, Amir Albazi kind of go through Malcolm Gordon like a hot knife through butter, and Figueiredo couldn't handle Gordon. So you've got that common opponent, and, Albazi shined against him, and Figueiredo just didn't. So that's a problem. You look at the metrics, and Albazi lands more, throws more. Figueiredo throws like half the volume that his opponents do, and he's landing less. Figueiredo's counting on takedowns, and he's got good takedown defense at the UFC level. He's stuffed 14 of 17, but he's still getting controlled a lot on those 3 takedowns that he's given up. Albazi should be able to win the minutes standing up, and he should be able to win the minutes in the grappling, and he's probably the more dangerous submission threat at this level, seeing as he was able to sub Gordon while Figueiredo was basically getting blanketed in by him in the 3rd round. So, yeah, this has got to be Albazi, but I can't lay that kind of juice on somebody that I haven't seen in a year and a half and that's been getting injured quite a bit. Got to see him back once, because Figueiredo's looked good in the last 2 wins. Yeah, there were, Rivera and Lacerda, but he's looked good in those fights. So maybe we'll get to see him continue on a little bit of a roll here, pick up on the Lacerda momentum. But Albazi should be better than this dude everywhere.
It looks like Albazi has pulled out of 2 fights. There's been 2 canceled fights since the layoff here. So against Ode Osborne, Albazi did withdraw there. And then against Tim Elliott, it was actually Tim Elliott that withdrew. So he did only withdraw from 1 fight that was supposed to happen last July 17th last year. So, we'll have to see if Albazi shows up. He's good to go. I think this is a very, very winnable matchup for him. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have Albazi opening up -300, currently -350. And we have Francisco Figueiredo opening up +250, currently +285. Of course, no odds on the props here, but I think this could potentially be a sneaky fight to get extended here. Figueiredo, for what it's worth, he is pretty durable on the feet. His submission defense is pretty solid, so maybe Albazi can kind of get this extended. I'm thinking kind of like a 3rd round or decision for Albazi here. But outside of that, maybe Albazi has a parlay piece, but the layoff is definitely something to think about there.
Yeah, always something to think about. There could be ring rust. There could be an adrenaline dump, and this is a pay-per-view card, going to be a live audience. So anything can happen. But yeah, Albazi looks good. He looks the part. And Figueiredo, wins over Lacerda and Jerome Rivera aren't going to get you put on the Mount Rushmore of the flyweight division here.
No, sir, they are not. All right, let us keep moving on. We have 200 of you in here with us. If you guys have not already, be sure to hit the like button. Let's try to get to 100 likes by the time we get out of here. Going to move on to the next fight now. We have AJ Fletcher going against Andalusa. We have Fletcher, 25 years old, 5'10" with a 67-inch reach. Andalusa, he is 29 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. We have Fletcher 4 years younger, but it's Lusa with a massive 7-inch reach advantage here. AJ Fletcher is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He got a knockout win on the Contender Series in the first round, and then he lost a decision against Matthew Semmelsberger. Andalusa, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He lost a decision to Jack Della Maddalena on the Contender Series, and then lost a decision on very short notice against Munir Lazzez by decision as well. So went and watched a lot of tape on Andalusa, and of course, what you're going to look for in this matchup is what does this takedown defense look like? And his takedown defense is phenomenal. Not only inside the UFC against Lazzez, he stuffed a couple of takedowns. Against Jack Della Maddalena, he stuffed a couple of takedowns. But even outside the UFC, he is stuffing takedowns very easily. His takedown defense seems to absolutely be on point. I also seen him go out there outside the UFC and get takedowns of his own and control some of his opponents, which was nice to see as well. And I think this could be a very interesting matchup if AJ Fletcher is not able to get this fight down to the mat. AJ Fletcher is a very good wrestler, and he's very dangerous on the feet. He's a finisher, finishing, I believe, all but one of his wins. I think we are in for a very exciting fight here, Weezy. I know a lot of people thought that Fletcher won his last fight against Semmelsberger. I watched that fight earlier today. I thought it was clear as day that Semmelsberger won that fight, but, AJ Fletcher definitely had his moments. He was a huge dog in that matchup, and he did not look like a huge dog, but this should be a very fun fight here. Weezy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's a great one, man. And I took a small dog shot on Lusa against Lazzez, and I mean, man, Lazzez looked fantastic in that fight. And like you said, Lusa took it on very short notice, but this guy's had 2 really tough fights at the UFC level thus far, with the Della Maddalena fight on the Contender Series and the Lazzez fight on short notice. So I'm interested to see what he does against somebody who's on his experience level. These guys have got a similar amount of pro fights and minutes in the cage, but it's Luso who's been a pro for 6 years longer, which is very strange. 9 years, 3 months as a pro, but only 11 fights. That's concerning to me when Fletcher's got 10 fights in less than 4 years. So Fletcher's just been a lot more active. We've seen Lusa more at the UFC level in terms of minutes. Both of these guys are good finishers, 88% for Fletcher, 75% for Lusa. So, but neither one of these guys has ever been finished. So, you got potent finishers, but they're both durable guys. So, this could potentially be a fight that finishes if these guys are as good of finishers as their stats say. But, maybe they're both, now that they're at this level, they're not going to be able to finish. So we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, like you mentioned, Lusa 100% takedown defense. And if he's able to keep this fight standing, I think winning minutes in the striking exchanges for Lusa is going to look a lot easier than it did against Della Maddalena and against Munir Lazzez, both excellent strikers. So this is a situation where, like you said, if Fletcher is unable to get this to the ground, he's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage here. And Lusa's got a chin, too, on him. And he's got fantastic takedown defense and some good striking of his own. So very interesting fight here. Definitely got to look more into it. But we don't have a lot of UFC stats to go on here. But what we do know is that Lusa's takedown defense is excellent, that Fletcher loves to wrestle, 8 takedown attempts in only 17 minutes of cage time. So you like to see that. Guys with process to their game. But I think Lusa is going to look a lot better in those striking exchanges in this matchup than he did against the phenomenal strikers that he's been against in his last 2. And he just beat John Howard, who's old and who's been around forever, but John Howard being known for being an excellent Muay Thai striker. So, going to take a look at the Lusa side here, but I'm a fan of AJ Fletcher as well.
Yeah, and AJ Fletcher has a ton of hype on him, and rightfully so. This guy's an exciting fighter, but stylistically, how this fight matches up, if Fletcher is not able to take down Lusa, or if he does take him down and Lusa is able to pop back up like he typically does on the feet, a 7-inch reach advantage for Lusa is nothing to kind of ignore there, right? And then I think Lusa is the better striker. Fletcher's a really good striker. He has some skill there. He hits extremely hard. But I think, technique-wise, it's definitely on Lusa's side, especially with that 7-inch reach advantage. I got to favor the striking of Lusa. So I think if Fletcher does not get this fight down to the mat, it could get very interesting. I think Fletcher could potentially land some big shots, maybe hurt Lucie, but if you go back and watch the Jack Della Maddalena fight, he ate Jack's best shots. He was the first person to take Jack Della Maddalena into the third round, and I don't know, like what is Angelus's like chin made out of, man? Because he ate some big shots from Maddalena, was still able to stay standing for the full 15 there. So yeah, I think I'm going to kind of wait this one out. I think more money might come in on AJ Fletcher, but it looks like Fletcher, never mind, open at minus 190. He is now minus 160. And we have Angelusa opened up plus 165, and he is currently plus 140. Yeah, I might be taking the dog shot here on Angelusa. The takedown defense 100% checks out. The cardio checks out. The striking checks out. I think it's going to be a very, very competitive fight. So yeah, I kind of liking the dog here. We don't have any time props yet, Weezy, but both guys are extremely tough. Both guys are really good finishers, so kind of tough in that aspect, right?
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, this is one of those fights where people might be like, Fletcher, Lucie, who the hell are these guys? But yeah, this is going to be a hell of a fight. And both of these guys, Angelusa only 29, AJ Fletcher only 25. So both of these guys got pretty bright futures here. And it's good to see Lucie getting a matchup with somebody that's on his experience level here. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, for sure. I see people in the chat all talking about the Gerald Meerschaert-Bruno Silva fight. I do not have a rant prepared for Bruno Silva. Luckily, I did not have him in a parlay, but if I did, you best believe there would be a big rant on Bruno Silva because he looked like he forgot how to fight. I don't know what happened there, but move on to the next fight here. We have an interesting one. We have Sean Woodson going against Luis Saldaña. Sean Woodson, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Saldaña, 31 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. We have Sean Woodson 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He knocked out Terrence McKinney in second round on the Contender Series. He did win a decision against Kyle Bochniak. He lost by submission against Julian Rosa. He won by decision against Yusuf Salau, and then he knocked out Colin Anglin his last time out. Luis Saldaña, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Jordan Griffin, won that by decision. He got a knockout on the Contender Series as well. He lost to Austin Lingo by decision, and then he beat Bruno Souza by decision. Sean Woodson, much bigger here. Sean Woodson, a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. And I'm surprised it's only 5 inches because Sean Woodson's arms are long. Like, this guy is really good at using that range, and I think he's going to use it well in this matchup. And I think Saldaña has a lot of skill. I think he's a very, very skilled fighter, but he is lacking one aspect that is very important to me and very important in terms of winning MMA fights, and that is cardio. This guy's cardio is atrocious. He's slowing down late in the first round, early second, and he's doing things you really don't want to see. In the Austin Lingo fight, he was putting his hands on his hips in the third round. The judges don't want to see that. And against Bruno Souza, he actually put his hands on his knees during the fight, and he bent down like he was tired, and that's just a horrible look to me. So his cardio is an extreme concern. He even slowed down against Jordan Griffin as well. I don't think Sean Woodson's going to slow down that bad. I think Woodson's the better striker here, especially as the fight goes on. Woodson is a huge favorite here. I think Saldaña could be competitive early on. Like I said, I like the skills of Saldaña, but the cardio is just not good. Unless he's improved something. Last time we've seen him against Souza, I really don't like Saldaña to win this fight. So yeah, give me Woodson here. I think cardio matters, and Saldaña does not have cardio. I also question his fight IQ. He was kind of waving on Bruno Souza in that third round and running away after waving him on. I thought that was funny. And then, of course, the whole putting his hands on his knees, walking away, looking like he didn't want to fight in that third round against Souza. Just weird stuff. But, yeah, definitely not trusting the cardio of Saldaña here. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I remember playing soccer as a kid and looking half as tired as Luis Saldaña, and my coach immediately pulling me out of the game and being like, come on, son, you got to do better than that. This guy's conditioning is deplorable. And Sean Woodson looked absolutely terrifying in his last fight against Colin Anglin, because I think the reason that Woodson lost the Julian Erosa fight is that he was point fighting. And I think he realized, Erosa realized at some point, you know what? This guy's punches don't hurt. And then he just started walking forward, just marching Woodson down. And Woodson was trying to dance, trying to point fight. That all went out the window after the Erosa fight. And Zalal tried to hold Woodson up against the cage for 15 full minutes, but was unsuccessful to take him down. So he was able to win that fight, was Woodson. But when Englund didn't come out wrestling immediately, dude, Woodson looked terrifying. It looked like he figured out, hey man, when I start hitting people, it's going to hurt. And if I'm able to do that, if I'm able to sting with some power on my punches, having a 78-inch reach as a featherweight is going to be a fucking problem for this division, especially when you mix it with 82% takedown defense. And tall guys are hard enough to take down. You got to body lock them or foot sweep them or have any chance of getting them. Otherwise, they just always find a base. They always find some place to post. So this line is pretty much unbettable at this point. But, man, if Saldaña wins this fight, I would be absolutely shocked. I just don't see how he does it. He doesn't have the cardio to wrestle at all. And even if he did, Woodson's got 82% takedown defense and has seen 45 takedown attempts in 5 fights. You know, Luis Saldaña isn't bringing anything with the wrestling that Sean Woodson hasn't already seen at this level and dealt with successfully. So, yeah, this is a rough spot for Luis Saldaña. This dude better be on the fucking treadmill, because if he looks that tired in the second round, Woodson's going to punt his head into the upper deck in front of a lot of live screaming fans.
Yeah, I mean, you do not want to slow down against Woodson. If Woodson is seeing that you're slowing down, and especially if it's in the first or second round, he's going to put it on you. He's going to get you out of there, right? You could slow down against a Bruno Souza, who has, I think, maybe 1 knockout on his record. You can slow down against Austin Lingo. And by the way, Austin Lingo won that 3rd round there. You can slow down against Jordan Griffin, but I don't think you can slow down against Sean Woodson. So yeah, his cardio better be on point, or I think he's in some serious trouble here. So we have the odds here. Woodson opened up as a -300 favorite, went down to -400, back to -325 here. Saldaña opened up +250, currently +275. And yeah, you could argue these odds are wide here, because I think Saldaña does have a ton of skill. He's such a good striker, lots of tools on the feet. It's just he can only do it for a minute or 5 minutes, and he's dangerous. At least he was dangerous outside the UFC, but he's not really showing that finishing ability thus far in the UFC. So does he finish Woodson in the first round? I lean towards no. So for that reason, I think Woodson kind of takes over as the fight goes on and puts it on and maybe even finishes him in that 3rd round there. So interestingly enough, I don't know if this is an actual line on FanDuel. I haven't checked, but FanDuel Sportsbook has the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is -112. The under 2.5 is -112, and that's the only line we have on the entire card. So I don't know what's going on.
Is that on Bet Online?
FanDuel. I don't know if it's even there. I can check right now, but
I remember when FanDuel put out the under 3.5 for the Mayra Bueno Silva fight 2 weeks ago, and I told you, man, I said I guarantee that's cashing, because that is only a 3-round fight. Yeah, it cashed, baby. It cashed. But yeah, that was not a real line. Unfortunately, they were not going to honor that one.
It was sweaty. Yeah, it was sweaty, but it cashed there. I'm trying to find the line here. So there it is, and it's a real line. It's out there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it probably does go over, but Saldaña slowing down in the late first round would kind of terrify me a little bit. But I would lean slightly towards over, but I'm kind of leaning like a 3rd round decision for Sean Woodson.
Yeah, I tend to feel the same way, but I could see him this might be a 3rd round prop that I'm looking at this week, because I love betting 3rd round props when somebody has good conditioning and their opponent has bad conditioning. So this definitely fits that archetype, and I think Woodson's the better striker anyway.
Yep, absolutely. All right. We'll move on to the next fight. And Weezy, if I had to say one word to describe this fight, I think that word would be ludicrous. I don't know why this fight is on the card. Actually spent the time going through and taping this fight. It took a couple years off my life, but got it done. And I will not be betting this fight, but we will talk about it. And this is an actual fight. It's not a joke. This is an actual fight. And this is an actual fight on a pay-per-view card. So not a joke. We will now begin. Yanan Wu, she's 26 years old, 5'8" with a 66-inch reach. Lucie Pudilová, 20 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. It's going to be Yanan Wu, 2 years younger. It's going to be Pudilová with a 1-inch reach advantage, and it's going to be Yanan Wu, who is the more handsome fighter in this matchup. Yanan Wu is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. A decision lost to Gina Mazzani, a submission win to Lauren Mueller, a decision loss to Mizuki Inoue, a decision loss to Jocelyn Edwards, and a decision loss to Mara Bueno Silva. Lucie Pudilová 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So she used to fight in the UFC a couple of years back. She got cut. She has won 4 of her last 5 fights. So they're bringing her back here. Why? I don't know. But this is a fight where Duty likes the dog, and I think that's kind of where I lean towards as well. We that plus money there. I think on the feet, I favor Pudilová being the better striker, but it's going to be close. Yanan Wu, she throws a ton of volume. I like that, and I kind of feel like a sneaky path to victory for Yanan Wu would be getting this fight down to the mat. She's training at a very good gym, Tiger Muay Thai. I believe she's doing some work at Jackson Wink as well. If they can come in here with a good game plan for Yanan Wu, and that game plan would be taking this fight down to the mat. We've seen Pudilová taken down. We've seen her stuck on her back. We've seen her struggle with that. Why can't Yanan Wu go out there and get this fight down to the mat? Yanan Wu has a takedown in her last 2 fights. She took down Jocelyn Edwards in the first round. She took down Mara Bueno Silva in the second round, and she had some success with controlling her. So in a close fight that I feel like is going to be on the feet, why can't she come in here, get a takedown, and win some minutes on the mat here? But this is a mess of a fight, Weezy. This is a fight that I'm not betting, but there's no way I would be laying chalk in this matchup, and there's no way I'd be laying chalk on one Lucie Pudilová. So clear pass, 1-800-GAMBLER. I am not going to be betting on this fight.
Yeah, the one thing you could lay chalk on is your Uncle Weezy not giving a shit about this fight. I don't know what to do here. 12 straight weeks of UFC. If you honestly think I'm fucking even taping this fight, you're sorely mistaken. I'm not
Weezy.
doing it.
Weezy, is Yanan Wu in the Wu-Tang Clan or no?
No, dude. She's not even affiliated with them. I made a mistake about that, saying that I had heard that she was, and it made me look like a goddamn fool. That the Wu-Tang Clan's not letting some Chinese woman with Patty Pimblett hair into their she doesn't even speak English. How's she gonna rap? It didn't make any sense, and I feel like a prick for even falling for it in the first place. So and then Pudilová goes 4-1 in Octagon. You should have to go. You should have to go on a 15-fight win streak in Octagon to even be considered to be back in the UFC. I mean, she lost to Talita Bernardo. She lost, and these women that she's beating, Marta Wałachek, Maiju Sootama, then Marta Wałachek again, and then Carol Yarawaki. And now she's back fighting somebody that's probably as good as those wins that she's been getting in Wu Yanan. This is terrible. No, I'm not even breaking it down.
Okay, I agree with that breakdown. I like it.
1-800-DUMB says Andy Becerra in the chat, and I tend to agree. This fight is dumb.
I agree, man. We have Pudilová as a favorite. She opened up -210, currently -145. Yanan will open up +180, currently +125. I feel like neither fighter should be favored here.
I mean, yeah, take the plus money if you have to have a bet on this fight, and then just get prepared for like the orderlies to come to your house and put you in the padded room for betting on this fight. So this is terrible. Let's move on to the next one.
All right. Yeah, that's hilarious. You said the Chinese Patty Pimblett, Yanan Wu. That is awesome.
That haircut, they got the same damn haircut.
Same one. Besides hers is black hair, right?
No, I think she dyed it blonde the last time, man.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Dude,
wow.
It was just so bad. I mean, and then I'm supposed to watch tape on this? No, nobody's paying me enough to watch tape on this fight. I can't do it, man. I'm not doing it. No.
Yeah. I don't recommend doing it. Yeah, I did want to see the Pudilová tape outside the UFC to see if she made some improvements, and her striking looked good, but I still saw her get taken down in one of her fights. I think Bernardo took her down. Another fight she got taken down and controlled. But like you said, who cares? Who would bet on a fight like this? Not me. We can move on to the next fight. We have Leonardo Santos going against Jared Gordon. I cannot wait to break down this fight. We have Leonardo Santos, 42 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. We have Jared Gordon, 33 years old. He is 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. We take a look at their last few fights. We have Leonardo Santos, who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He beat Adriano Martins by decision. He beat Stevie Ray by knockout. He beat Roman Bogatov by decision. He lost to Grant Dawson by knockout. and he lost to Clay Guida by submission, a fight that still gives me some nightmares. We'll talk more about that. Jared Gordon, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to the champion Charles Oliveira, a decision win against Chris Fishgold, a decision win against Danny Chavez, a decision win against Joe Selecki, and then a submission win against Grant Dawson. So the elephant in the room here is we have Leonardo Santos, who is a 42-year-old fighter fighting at 155 pounds. He is 42 and a half. He does turn 43, I believe, in January or February. And the other elephant in the room is his cardio at this point of his career. So he's a really good fighter. He really is. Back in the day, very phenomenal grappler, but we just have not seen that grappling in a very, 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 very long time. And I thought he would kind of use it against Clay Guida, especially when he had Guida hurt. I thought, maybe take his back, take him down, submit this guy. But because I've not seen that grappling in a while from Leonardo Santos. But what we are seeing lately is the power of Santos. This guy, his strikings came a long way, and he has a ton of power. Knocked out Stevie Ray in the first round. He was on his way to getting Bogatov out of there. He was well on his way to getting Clay Guida out of there. He's still, at 42 years old, a very dangerous fighter. But, he's dealt with injuries throughout his career, especially later in his career. I remember watching one of his later fights and saying he was potentially thinking about retiring. And he asked his coaches if he should retire. His coaches said, no, you should keep going. And I kind of have a feeling this may be Leonardo Santos' last fight in the UFC. Losing to Clay Guida is not the worst look in the world. Getting submitted by Clay Guida, that is definitely not the best look. What I will say is I think Leonardo Santos is going to have a big opportunity to go out here and knock out Jared Gordon in the very first round. Jared Gordon, he's been knocked out, I think, 4 times in his career. I think like 4 times in the UFC as well. He's been knocked out a ton. His chin is not great. He's going to be at a height disadvantage, a reach disadvantage. He's small for the division. And Leonardo Santos hits very, very hard. So a prop I'm going to be looking at is the Santos to win in round 1. But if this gets out of round 1, I do not trust Santos' cardio. We saw him gas out in the 3rd round against Grant Dawson. He gassed out bad, really bad against Bogatov. He gassed out extremely bad against Clay Guida, and he's only getting older. He's not making improvements at this point. I think Jared Gordon wins this fight if it does reach that 2nd round, but I think Santos is going to have his moments, and I think Jared Gordon is going to give Santos opportunities to land something big here. So a prop I will be circling for this week is going to be Santos to win in round 1. And if you do like Gordon, I would recommend live betting this after the very first round. Weezy, how do you feel about this one here?
Yeah, so, Santos is 42 years old, but look at, he's 5 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's a multi-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion at the black belt level. He's the far superior striker. He's got way more power than Jared Gordon does. Jared Gordon is 9 years younger, and he's got better conditioning. And I honestly think that's the only place where he even touches Leonardo Santos in skill for skill in any part of the game. I saw this line and I laughed out loud. I really did. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. You're going to make this dude a minus 300 favorite because Santos is 42. Santos, if he doesn't get knocked out with 1 second left, he wins a decision against an undefeated fighter in Grant Dawson. If Keith Peterson wasn't, completely drunk and not even, showing up to ref fights, he beats Clay Guida in the very first round. There's a couple of big ifs here, but Santos might be on a 10-fight win streak right now. If he was on a 10-fight win streak, would he be plus 260 to Jared fucking Gordon? I don't understand this. Both these guys fought Grant Dawson, and Santos performed 10 times better against Grant Dawson at the age of 41 than Jared Gordon did just a few months ago. This makes no sense to me at all. I have a 1-unit bet on Leonardo Santos at plus 260. I don't care if he can only fight for 5 minutes. He might only need 3.
Yes.
He's better on the ground. He's got more power. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. Jared Gordon's striking is just basic at this level. What Jared Gordon has is really good wrestling, fantastic conditioning, and that's it. So he's going to have to do things that I didn't see Grant Dawson do. So, it took Grant Dawson 13 minutes to get Leonardo Santos down, and then he knocked him out with 1 second left in the fight. So, yeah, I had to make this bet. This line makes no sense. I don't know how anyone lays minus 300 on Jared Gordon at this point in his career, but good luck to you if you do. I see the point. Yeah, Santos has probably got 1 foot out the door. He does not have good conditioning, but that's the only 2 reasons to bet on Jared Gordon. And when you got 2 reasons out of 50 to bet on somebody, you don't lay minus 300.
100%. And yeah, like you said, if he was able to finish Clay Guida, which he really should have, went back and watched that fight.
He did. He landed 50 unanswered strikes while Keith Peterson was sipping, tequila and smoking a Marlboro Red.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of nuts. I feel like Keith Peterson could have stopped that fight like on 3 or 4 different occasions, and it just kept on going and going and going, and Keith Peterson was nowhere to be found. So yeah, he very well could have finished Guida, and if he did, I think it'd be lined a lot closer. But yeah, I would not be laying minus 310 on Gordon here. He opened up minus 225, currently minus 310. Santos opened up plus 190, currently plus 260. If you want to bet Gordon, why not just live bet him after that first round? I would not get involved because he probably loses the first round. There's a good ass chance he loses that first round because Santos, skill for skill, like you said, he's the better striker. He's the much better grappler. His takedown defense is phenomenal. Skill for skill. When we're talking skill for skill, it's Santos all day. It's just the cardio is kind of what concerns me there. So, yeah, I would be taking a look at the live betting angle, but I will be betting that Santos round one knockout potentially, hoping to get some good odds on that. I think it's going to be so live there in that first round there. We don't have any props on the fight goes or fight doesn't go. I'm curious what they're going to put that fight doesn't go at. The only concern is, Jared Gordon is not much of a finisher, so that kind of scares me. I don't know. I think I might just take a look at that first round prop for Santos and call it a day.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like I said, I bet Santos at plus 260. I've got 1 unit on it. And I just wanted to add one thing, though. Santos showed deplorable fight IQ in that first fight. When he realized that Keith Peterson was talking to somebody cage side instead of reffing the fight, he was on that dude's back. And he's a multiple-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. He could have easily just dug his hooks in and then made him tap. But he showed horrible fight IQ. Got to be honest about that. But like I said, at plus 260, I had to make that bet because I just don't think Jared Gordon is better than this guy anywhere except for the fact that he's younger and that he's got better conditioning.
Yep, absolutely agree there. All right, Tajik Bey with another dono. Thank you so much for the donos throughout the night. Tajik Bey saying watching tape is overrated. So is watching the weigh-ins just to bet winners. Yeah, a lot of people do agree with you there on that one, Tajik Bey. But thank you for the dono. It does go a long, long way here.
Hey, Brady, you know what's not overrated? What? Watching Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio, baby. That's what we're here to do. We can watch all kinds of shit, but it's Stat Diggers. This is what it's all about, you guys. We'd like to thank everybody that's spending their Sunday night with us. Absolutely.
All right, before we continue and get into this main card, Harry Hunsucker fight week. Get excited. We're going to take a 1 minute break, do a little commercial here, and then we'll be right back for some Harry Hunsucker fight talk. Cannot fucking wait. Let's go. And we are back. We got a big dono here. We got Tajik Bey with the dono saying, yes, Stat Diggers is the MMA best show on YouTube. Appreciate the dono. Appreciate the kind words. That goes a long, long way, Tajik. It does mean a ton. And people are wondering why Tajik Bey is the GOAT, and that is right there. He supports the MMA community. Appreciate you, Tajik Bey. You are the man. But, who else is the man, Uncle Weezy? Harry Hunsucker is absolutely the man. Used to fight at heavyweight. He said, this is too easy. This is too easy. Why not go down to light heavyweight and let me go get that title? We got Tyson Pedro going against Harry Hunsucker. Pedro, 30 years old, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. Hunsucker, 33 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. So Harry Hunsucker is coming down from heavyweight, but he is still going to be at a 1-inch height disadvantage and also a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Tyson Pedro is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss to Ilir Latifi, a submission win against Saperbeg Safarov, a submission loss to OSP, a knockout loss to Shogun, took a long layoff, comes back, finishes Ike Villanueva in the very first round. Harry Hunsucker, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, got knocked out by Jared Vandera on the Contender Series, beat Corey Moon outside the UFC, and then they signed him short notice against Tai Tuivasa, got knocked out in the first round, and then he also got knocked out by Justin Tafa. So Uncle Weezy, I believe that Justin Tafa, Tai Tuivasa, and Tyson Pedro all train together. So they're going to have some inside information on one Harry Hunsucker here. But yeah, I cannot wait for this fight, Weezy. Harry Hunsucker is one of my favorite fighters in the entire UFC. This guy is so much fun to watch. You take a look at his record, and he has a total of 12 fights, and all 12 of those fights end in the very first round. This guy has never been over 2.5 rounds. He's never been to the third round. He's never been over 1.5. This guy's never even seen the second round. If you guys want a good laugh, you go watch this guy's earlier in his early career. Go check out his fight against one Dontel Mays. And losing to Dontel Mays is a horrible look, but you know what's worse? Getting finished by Dontel Mays. You know what's worse than that? Tapping to strikes to Dontel Mays. Harry Hunsucker tapped to strikes against Dontel Mays. He said no more. Harry Hunsucker gassed out in like 2 minutes in that fight. I think even like 30 seconds, Harry Hunsucker was gassed in that fight. And that's kind of what he does. And that was not the only time he has punched to tap to strikes. He tapped to strikes in his debut as well. And it seems like when the tough gets going, he kind of looks for a way out, as he's been finished 5 times, all in the first round. So yeah, I mean, we have the biggest favorite on the card here in Pedro. And yeah, Hunsucker may be getting a little disrespected, but I think Pedro has this one in the bag as long as he lasts like the first 2.5 minutes here against Harry Hunsucker. Harry Hunsucker will have opportunities early. He does throw with reckless abandon with a lot of power. But outside of like a flukish type knockout, I think Tyson Pedro gets this done fairly easy. I think he's the better striker by a mile. And I think an easy path to victory, an easy night at the office for Tyson Pedro. He hasn't went to his wrestling a lot in the UFC. But an easy path to victory is going to be taking down Harry Hunsucker and finishing this guy. We saw Jared Vandera, who takes down nobody, take down Harry Hunsucker easily. And as soon as he took him down, landed a couple shots, the fight was over. Harry Hunsucker seems to have no ground game. Tyson Pedro actually has a very good ground game, very good submission game, very good ground and pound. If I'm Tyson Pedro, I'm taking this guy down, and I'm finishing the fight shortly after here. So although I'm a big fan of Harry Hunsucker, it is really hard to get behind him here, Weezy. Outside of like an early big shot, which it could happen. This is MMA. I think Tyson Pedro has more paths to victory. I think Tyson Pedro finishes Harry Hunsucker in the very first round. I do not see this lasting 5 minutes. I would be shocked if Tyson Pedro was the first person to take Harry Hunsucker into the second round. So yeah, Tyson Pedro round 1, but I will be rooting for Harry Hunsucker.
Yeah, Harry's fun. This is why we tune into fights, to watch dudes like Harry Hunsucker get in the cage and just throw hammers and, kill or be killed. He's either going out on the shield or he's sending somebody to sleep. So, but there's a reason why Tyson Pedro is minus 700 here. And if I'm a young up-and-coming fighter, I'm finding out who the fuck Tyson Pedro's manager is that's getting him back-to-back UFC fights against Ike Villanueva and then Harry Hunsucker making his debut at 205. And I'm like, I'm trying to hire that dude because this guy's easing Tyson back into the flow of this division here and getting him a couple of free win checks. Easy plan to just take this dude down. Harry Hunsucker, no control time for and 33% control time against. He has the albatross around his neck of being the only guy to get taken down by Jared Vandera at the UFC level. Even Jared Vandera could figure out with his 0 fight IQ that, like, hey, maybe I should just take this clown down and knock him out. And then once he did that, it was immediately over. So I think Tyson will probably just take the easy way out here, but his striking's better than Hunsucker's as well. He's just got to avoid getting hit by a big overhand right here, and it'll be fine. But the line is pretty much unbettable on this fight, so I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. Somebody's getting slept in the very first round, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And if Hunsucker wins, MMA Twitter is going to go nuts. I mean, it's going to be crazy. And I can't believe this is on the this is a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it is.
Pay-per-view fight. I mean, they're putting Harry Hunsucker on a pay-per-view card to build up the name of Tyson Pedro. Wouldn't it be something if he ruined the UFC's plans to get him an easy win in front of a pay-per-view audience on UFC 278? I can't wait for this fight.
That would be something else, Weezy. We got Taj B with the donut saying Hunsucker might not be a bad bet. Actually, yeah, if you like Hunsucker, you probably take a look at that first round prop, as he only has about a couple minutes of cardio, and you probably get crazy odds on it because we have a Tyson Pedro, who is a massive favorite, opening at minus 750, currently minus 800. Harry Hunsucker opening up plus 550, currently plus 500. Yeah, curious to see how Harry Hunsucker does look at light heavyweight, because he is going to be making his debut here. And I'm also curious to see where they do set these violence lines at, because it's a clear violent spot. I'm hoping they don't do the whole Charlie Ontiveros thing where they didn't put out lines till fight day. Yeah. Hoping to get them out soon, because violence is something that I do have circled, but I'm not getting my hopes up on it.
Yeah, that's unbelievable that DraftKings, a nationwide sports book like DraftKings won't even put out a violence bet option on the Ontiveros fight until fight day. It's just absolutely pathetic. And this would be one that I wouldn't want. If I was a bookie, I wouldn't want to open this fight doesn't go to decision, because it's like, even at minus 1,000, it's almost bettable, because you're like, this thing goes to the, finishes inside the distance 99% of the time. You're giving me 90%. I'm getting a 9% edge. It's this fight is going to finish. I mean, if it doesn't, it would be one of the biggest miracles of all time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm taking a look at Hunsucker's Instagram. He seems to look ready to go. So, looking forward to the debut for Hunsucker at light heavyweight. All right, enough of that. That was fun. We'll move on to the next fight, which is an interesting fight here. We have Marcin Tybura going against Alexander Romanov. We have Tybura, 36 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. Romanov, 31 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. Romanov, 5 years younger. Tybura with a 1-inch height advantage, and Tybura with a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Tybura is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a decision loss to Alexander Volkov, a knockout win against Walt Harris, a knockout win against Greg Hardy, a decision win against Ben Rothwell, a decision win against Maxine Grishin. And as far as Romanov, he has 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Roque Martinez, submission win against Marcus Rogério de Lima, a decision win against Juan Espino, and then a knockout win against Jared Vanderaa, and then a decision win against Chase Sherman. What a level of competition there for Alexander Romanov, besides Juan Espino. Juan Espino is phenomenal, although he is like 42, but still, that was a very impressive win to an extent. Because Espino did give him some problems in that matchup, and that whole thing where he got kicked and, it went to decision. Wasn't the best look in the world, and Romanov was a little bit gassed out. But, this is an interesting fight here. We have Romanov who's going to look to get this fight down to the mat, but I think that might be a little bit tougher than getting, say, Chase Sherman down, Vanderaa down, De Lima down, Martinez down. Marcin Tybura has an 82% takedown defense, 15 UFC fights. Has only been taken down 5 times. Tybura has solid cardio. Tybura is a black belt in BJJ. If Romanov's not able to take down Tybura and get him out of here early in that first 1.5 rounds, I think this fight can get very interesting down the stretch, Weezy. So we have Romanov as a big favorite. Lots of hype on the guy, 16-0. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, it's a great, great fight. I mean, what a matchup. I've been wanting to see Romanov against a real grappler since the Espino fight, because we saw a real grappler in Espino give Romanov a ton of problems, and Romanov had quit in the 3rd round. He took the veteran's way out, and it was very smart of him to do that, because he was done. Espino was going to finish him probably in that 3rd round. So it's going to be interesting to see a long-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with really good takedown defense and way better striking than Romanov, if we're being real here. How is he going to be able to handle this? Because when you look at Tybura's grappling numbers, they're not great, actually, right? 32.76% on his takedowns. He's getting 30% control time forward, which is good, but he's allowing 14%, right? So he's out controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, but he's out takedowning his opponents at a 4-to-1 ratio. So he's not terribly efficient in terms of getting takedowns and winning minutes. But here's the thing. When Tybura takes you down and gets on top of you, the fight is going to be over shortly thereafter. And he doesn't even hunt for subs. He gets ground and pound, and he knocks you out with it. Marcin Tybura at the UFC level has never subbed anybody. He's got 4 knockouts and 5 decision wins. So he can do it either way, but his grappling is phenomenal, and he is a black belt. But it's just very important that Tybura doesn't wind up underneath Romanov, because then he's going to have to expend energy either getting up, trying to reverse him, or he's probably going to lose the round if Romanov is on top of him for more than a minute or two. So it's a fascinating fight, because Alexander Romanov is getting his takedowns at almost a 70% clip. He's averaging 6.46 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponent 70.7% to 8%. So, man, you want to talk about a guy who's enormously efficient on the ground. And if you say, but Tybura is the much better striker, well, if these fights go according to how Romanov's past fights are, only 1 out of 5 seconds of this fight is going to be standing. So Tybura would have to knock the dude out standing up, and that's not his game. He gets knockouts with ground and pound, not with stand-up. So it's a fascinating fight. Is Alexander Romanov's wrestling, which has looked really good against Chase Sherman and Vandera and Rogerio de Lima and Roque Martinez, is it going to hold up against somebody that's almost on Juan Espino's wrestling level and is definitely on his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt level right now in terms of who the better submission grappler is here? It's Tybura.
Yeah, I mean, Tybura went 5 rounds with Fabrice Werdum back in 2017. That's impressive. He went 3 rounds he knocked out Luis Henrique. Henrique was a brown belt at the time. He was a good grappler. And outside of that, against Spivak, Spivak's really good at taking people down. Spivak went 0 for 1 on takedowns, and Tybura was actually able to take down Spivak twice and win that fight. So outside of those, there hasn't been a ton of guys really trying to take down Tybura, and when they have, he's had a lot of success. I think this fight can get a little bit more interesting than these odds do indicate here. We have Romanov as a really big favorite, opening up -240, currently -335. Tybura opens up +205, currently +275. Hype definitely drives the line, because I think this fight could get very interesting if it does get extended. Like you said, Weezy, Chase Sherman is a guy that his takedown defense, if you're getting taken down by Jake Collier, I question your takedown defense. Jared Vandera, his takedown defense is 20%. Yeah. You have Marcos Rogerio de Lima, his takedown defense is 57%. And then you have Roque Martinez, whose takedown defense is 53%. He was able to take down Espino twice, but Espino did take him down 4 times there. So, if Romanov's not able to take down and hold down Tybura consistently, this could get very, very interesting.
This is such a high-level fight. I can't wait. Romanov is such a great prospect in this division, still only 31 years old, undefeated, 16-0. And he's been doing it at the UFC level for a minute now. So, this is a great test for him. I'm going to be looking at a Marcin Tybura bet for sure. If I can get him around +300, I love that.
Sounds good. And by the way, it looks like some people in the chat were taking my Lucie rant 100% serious. It was not 100% serious. Yes, I'm upset with Lucie, but do I really want to throw my phone into the river? Kind of, but not really. I was not being 100% serious there. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have Merab Dvalishvili going against José Aldo. We have Aldo, who is 35 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Merab Dvalishvili, 31 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Dvalishvili, 4 years younger. Aldo with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We have Aldo 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Marlon Moraes. Very close fight there. Thought he won that one. A knockout loss to Petr Yan. A decision win against Marlon Vera, aging very well. A decision win against Pedro Munoz, and a decision win over Rob Font. We have Merab Dvalishvili, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Casey Kenny. A decision win against Gustavo Lopez. A decision win against John Dodson. And a decision win against Cody Stamann. And a knockout win against Marlon Moraes there. This is a very, very interesting fight because we have Merab Dvalishvili, who has attempted 139 takedowns thus far in 9 UFC fights, which is just insane. And we have someone in José Aldo who has some of the best takedown defense, not only in the division, but in UFC history, sitting at 88.6%. He has been taken down only 9 times, and his opponents have attempted 79 takedown attempts. And this is in 19 UFC fights. He has only been taken down more than once, and that was against Frankie Edgar back in the day. And Frankie Edgar was only able to get like 57 seconds of control time. It is extremely hard to take down José Aldo, and it is even harder to hold him down. So that's what makes this fight so intriguing here. We have a guy that's going to go for a ton of takedowns in Merab against a guy who has some of the best takedown defense in UFC history in José Aldo. So I know people are going to have a lot of strong takes on this one, either side. But Weezy, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one right now.
Yeah, it's almost pointless to talk about the stats on this one, even though we've got robust sample sizes for both of them, because we kind of know what this fight comes down to. Does it stay standing or is it in control time positions? And if it's standing, we know that Aldo's boxing is just going to be way too much for Dvalishvili. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got 20 more pro fights. He's got 10 more UFC fights. And this dude has been in there with everybody. And nobody's going out there and getting the better of José Aldo in the striking exchanges that's not named Petr Yan, or Conor McGregor a long, long time ago up at 145. So Dvalishvili, 139 takedown attempts in 9 fights, 44% control time for, 5.6% control time against. And one thing we can count on from a guy who attempts 15 takedowns per fight. And if we think about the fact that he's got 130 minutes of UFC cage time and he's been in control time positions for 50% of it, it's almost like he's got 139 takedown attempts in just 65 minutes. So just the fact that Dvalishvili has the kind of gas tank where he can attempt 16 takedowns in a fight makes him a very dangerous guy to bet against, because you're going to probably lose minutes. It's just how it goes. But José Aldo has that perfect archetype of fighter that he is, where he's stopping those takedowns and he makes people pay for them. It's not just he's stopping, getting an underhook, putting your back on the fence and then backing away. He's drilling you in the head with elbows. He's hitting you with uppercuts on the way in, with knees. He's got really sharp leg kicks. If he starts getting those calves of Dvalishvili early, it's going to be almost impossible for him to wrestle late. There's a lot of reasons to like José Aldo in this fight. Aldo is still only 35 years old, and I just think that he's pretty much better everywhere here. He's the better submission grappler. He's by far the better boxer. He's fought by far the way better brand of competition. And guess who's beaten Merab Dvalishvili, right? It's John Dodson, right? And Ricky Simon. John Dodson, some of the best takedown defense that's ever been in the UFC. But José Aldo would have punched a hole in John Dodson's face, So I think that this line is a gift for José Aldo here. Even if Dvalishvili pushes for those takedowns for the entire 15 minutes, if he's not getting them, José Aldo is going to win it on the scorecards, because they're going to judge damage, not hugging. So gotta like Aldo here, man.
And we are in the big cage as well, which is 100% going to help a guy like José Aldo. So, there's no evidence to suggest that, José Aldo's takedown defense is not going to hold up here. I think it will. Maybe Merab can get him down. I think he probably does, but is he going to be able to hold him down? I just really struggle to see that. I think this fight does play out on the feet for, quite a few minutes here. And like you said, against John Dodson, Merab was only able to control John Dodson for 3 minutes and 44 seconds against Ricky Simon. Dvalishvili is only able to control him for 2 minutes and 42 seconds. And then in his loss against Frankie Saenz, he was able to control him for 7 minutes and 46 seconds and still lost that fight, although I thought he won, but still. If he can't control José Aldo here, he's going to lose the fight. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We have Merab Dvalishvili opening up plus 145 as a big dog. Currently minus 127. Looks like money just is coming in on Merab as we speak. José Aldo opened up minus 170, is currently plus 107. Weezy, I think I might have an underdog bet on José Aldo this week. I'm going to rely on that takedown defense, that striking, that BJJ. And I think he stuffs the takedowns, keeps on the feet, and outpoints Merab here. But, Merab is definitely going to have some success. He's definitely going to get takedowns here. I just don't know if he's going to be able to hold down José Aldo for long periods of time here. So yeah, kind of liking that dog money. And plus 107 now. And I'm curious to see where the money goes here because it looks like money is coming in on Merab, which is a little bit surprising. But we'll see where it goes throughout the week.
He's such a good wrestler, so I see why people are betting him here. But José Aldo is one of those guys, and I've said this before. He's like the kind of guy where if he wanted to be a boxer, he'd be in the Olympics. If he wanted to be a wrestler, he'd be in the Olympics. He was already a professional soccer player before he even picked up MMA. This guy could be incredible at whatever he does because he's just a fantastic athlete and he works really hard. So this is a great matchup, and I think Aldo fits exactly into the archetype of fighter that's going to give Merab Dvalishvili a shit ton of problems.
And Tajik is asking about the potential draw at plus 6,600. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we got a draw last week, and I'm whenever I see those draws, it's like it feels like that's when the draw bets come because people remember, oh shit, there could be draws. But before the Zalal fight, there hadn't been a draw for like 4 months, I think, 5 months. But somebody would have to get a 10-8 or a point taken away here, and I don't know, man. I don't know. But this fight probably does go to decision.
Yeah, I think it does as well. All right, we have a couple more fights left to break down. We have the co-main event here. We have Paulo Costa going against Luke Rockhold. We have Costa, who is 31 years old, 6'1" with a 72-inch reach. Rockhold, 37 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. It's going to be Costa 6 years younger. It's going to be Rockhold with a 2-inch height advantage and Rockhold with a 5-inch reach advantage. We have Paulo Costa, who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win against Johnny Hendricks, a knockout win against Uriah Hall, decision win against Yoel Romero, a knockout loss against Israel Adesanya, a decision loss to Marvin Vettori. As far as Luke Rockhold, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Chris Weidman, a knockout loss against Michael Bisping, a knockout win against David Branch, a knockout loss to Yoel Romero, and then a knockout loss to Jan Blachowicz. So the big thing here for this one is we have not seen Luke Rockhold in a very, 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 very long time. And it's been 3 years since we've seen Luke Rockhold. It's been 3 years and 1 month. And the last time we saw Luke Rockhold, he looked terrible. He looked awful. And I know it was at 205, but man, he looked bad. So, I mean, I still have a bad taste in my mouth from 3 years ago of Luke Rockhold just looking like complete crap in that fight against Jan Blachowicz. And he got knocked out in that second round, looked bad in the first as well. And then prior to that, 4 years and 5 months ago, he got knocked out by Yoel Romero in the third round. And then his last win comes 4 years and 10 months ago against David Branch. So it's been a long, long time since we've seen Luke Rockhold. And it's been a long, long time since we've seen Luke Rockhold win a fight. He has 5 losses, all 5 of them coming by knockout. He's taken some time off. He's dealt with some injuries. But is he going to come back at 37 years old, almost 38 years old? And is he going to look like an improved version after a 3-year layoff? I'm just not really convinced. I think Paulo Costa knocks out Luke Rockhold. I think Costa gives Rockhold a 6th knockout loss. I just did not like what I saw from Rockhold his last 2 fights. And it's been a 3-year layoff. He's only getting older. He's dealing with injuries. He's dealing with stuff outside the cage. Costa seems to be the hungrier fighter. He looks to be ready. I think Costa knocks out Rockhold on the first or second round. So give me Costa to win. Costa win by knockout. I cannot trust the chin of Rockhold. I cannot trust the layoff. And I'm surprised he's even coming back after a 3-year, 1-month layoff, Weezy.
Dude, if I were Luke Rockhold, I'd be modeling and crushing ass. Being out on a yacht, banging models. What the hell is this guy doing getting back in the cage at the age of 37, getting knocked out in all 5 of his pro losses? What is he doing, dude? He looked awful the last time we saw him. What year was it when that last win against David Branch? What year was that?
Like 2017 or 18.
Jesus Christ. I mean, what is he doing, dude? He's a good-looking guy. He's got money. He's got a job. He doesn't need this shit. Paulo Costa is going to kill him. What? I don't understand. Luke, what are you doing, man? You can do better than this. You're already doing better than this. You know, you're a fucking model, for Christ's sake. Go back to modeling. They pay you more than the UFC pays you. Don't get in there with Paulo Costa. Fake an injury and fucking walk away, dude. You don't need this shit. Paulo's going to break your face.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree. I think he should be out there crushing ass, but instead, I think Costa is going to crush his ass this weekend.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't get what is this? Is there a fight left on his contract or something like that? And they just want to kind of like get it out of the way and Luke wants the money or something? I don't understand this, man. This doesn't make any sense to me. What's the line on Costa? What's the money line?
He opened up minus 260, is currently minus 275. Rockhold opened up plus 220, is currently plus 235.
Kind of surprised it's not wider, but after laying minus 225 on Marcin Budai last week, I don't know how much juice I want to lay anymore in my life at this point. But god damn, man. I mean, I know Rockhold's a really talented mixed martial artist, but he's from a bygone era. He's been a pro for 15 years, and he made his debut in 2007. This sport was different then, man. It was much different then. I mean, this guy lost to fucking Bisping. He got knocked out by Bisping, a guy with one eye who was at the end of his career. You know, I mean, I don't understand this. What is he doing? Why is he coming back? This is Paulo Costa. It's probably an ass shaving. It's probably going to look like Quinlan Witt. The first time Paulo touches him, Luke's going to be out of there.
Yep, I agree. I mean, Luke, like I said, I know the Blachowicz fight was at light heavyweight. He looked slow. He looked old, and he was like 35 at the time. He's now like 37 or 38 now. He's coming back after a long layoff. The chin's completely not there. Paulo Costa hits like a truck. Paulo Costa is probably going to put it on him and eventually just find a knockout shot. I don't see Rockhold taking him down. I was kind of surprised at the game plan for Rockhold against Blachowicz, trying to take down Jan Blachowicz. You know, the announcers were like, what is he doing? I was like, what is he doing? Eventually gets caught. He's not going to be able to take down Paulo Costa. I think Costa knocks him out. And the last 10 fights of Luke Rockhold, the last 10 fights, which is 11 fights goes a while ago at this point, right? The last 10 fights have ended inside the distance for Luke Rockhold. I'm going to be taking a long look at that fight doesn't go to decision. We take a look at the finish rates for the two. We have Rockhold with an 87% finish rate, and then we have Paulo Costa with a 92% finish rate. And Rockhold's been finished in all of his losses, all by knockout, and Costa has been finished in one of two losses. So 6 or 7 losses combined inside the distance. I think the fight doesn't go is a pretty good look. The last time that Rockhold has been to a decision was back in 2012. 2012, and that was 10 years ago at this point. So, I think the fight doesn't go is going to be a really solid look here. Costa by knockout, a solid look. I think Costa is going to get him out of there.
Yeah, and a 93% finish rate for Costa in his wins. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, this is the only one not that he didn't finish was Yoel Romero.
Yep, and he knocked down Romero like once or twice too.
And yeah, Luke. Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Pull out.
Life could be so much easier for you, brother. I mean, you could just do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to get into the cage with this dude.
Yeah, he doesn't, but it looks like it's going to happen, and I just don't think it's going to end well. But we'll see. We have the main event. We have Kamaru Usman going against Leon Edwards. We have Usman, who is 35 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach, going against Edwards, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Edwards 5 years younger. Edwards with a 2-inch height advantage, and it's going to be Usman with a 2-inch reach advantage here. Kamaru Usman is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Colby Covington, a decision win against Jorge Masvidal, a knockout win against Gilbert Burns, a knockout win against Jorge Masvidal, and then a decision win against Colby Covington, fighting the best of the best competition. We got Leon Edwards, who is 4-0 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights, had a decision win against Donald Cerrone, a split decision win against Gunnar Nelson, a decision win against RDA, a no contest against Bilal Muhammad, and then a decision win against Nate Diaz. We have Usman here, who is a big favorite, and I kind of agree with it, man. Usman seems to be almost unstoppable at this point. He's went through Covington twice. He's went through Jorge Masvidal twice. He's already been through Edwards once, and I think it's going to be twice. I just don't really see anybody beating this guy for a couple of years at this point. He's 35 years old, so he is getting up there a little bit, but I still feel like he has some good years left in him, and he's only getting better. His striking has improved a ton throughout the last couple of years. He has that jab. He's throwing some power. I think he has like 7 knockdowns in his last 5 fights. So the power is starting to translate, and that's scary for Kamaru Usman here. But the striking is getting better. He has that wrestling. He has that grappling. He has that control, and he has that cardio, especially to push that wrestling heavy pace if he needs to for 5 rounds. You can go back and watch the Edwards fight versus Usman a while ago. It was, I think, Usman's 2nd fight, Edwards' 3rd fight. It was very early in their careers, and Usman was able to have success. He was able to hold Edwards against the cage, and Edwards did do good initially stuffing the takedowns, but Usman was able to eventually get him down, and I kind of see the fight playing out the same way. Of course, at range, on the feet, you favor a guy like Edwards, but Usman's not an idiot like Lupita Godinez. He's not going to go in there and strike with Edwards for 25 minutes. He's going to push him against the cage. He's going to take him down, and he's going to grind this guy for 5 rounds here. So, and on top of that, Edwards is not much of a finisher. Is he going to finish Kamaru Usman? I don't really think so. Is he going to submit Usman off his back? I don't really think so. Is he going to win minutes here against Usman? I don't really think so. So I know a lot of people are going to be taking the dog shot here on Leon Edwards. He's a very popular fighter. I know a lot of people don't like Usman. They call him Snoozeman. And maybe people will be snoozing during this matchup because I kind of see it being a little bit boring because I see Usman pushing Edwards against the cage, getting takedowns, controlling him, fighting smart. He has top-of-the-notch fight IQ, top-of-the-notch cardio. He's a winner. He wins fights, and I think he wins this one this Saturday. Weezy, how do you feel about this main event?
Yeah, I can't believe Leon Edwards got a title shot, man. He just waited. He just refused to fight anyone and said, eventually I'm going to get this shot, and they gave it to him off of a piss-poor performance against Nate Diaz, an absolute garbage fight where he almost got finished in the 5th round by Nate Diaz at this point in his career. And Kamaru's already beaten him, but you can't blame the UFC for that. Kamaru's beaten everybody. He's literally, I think he's cleaned out this division even more than maybe Adesanya's cleaned out the middleweight division at this point. So it's hard to see Leon Edwards having the success here. We haven't seen Usman wrestle like he used to when he first came into the UFC, when that was his game plan. Because he's got 47.3% control time and only 2% control time allowed, and he's stuffed all 31 takedowns. So at this point, it's almost like Usman, you could even make an argument that he could win minutes in the striking here if he wanted to, just by how he performed against Covington and Masvidal on the feet. Leon Edwards coming in here, getting his shot. I really hope he doesn't win. He's just a boring fighter. But he is well-rounded, but I don't think that his striking is good enough in order to beat Usman because, you just get the feeling that the second Usman doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he can just change how this fight is taking place, put this dude up against the cage, and then work for takedowns. And if he does that, he should win easily. But, Kamaru's striking has improved by leaps and bounds, and his takedowns have always been good. But for Kamaru, look, at 15-0 in the UFC, you know that the guy is a special fighter. But the fight IQ, Brady, let's talk about the fight IQ. When was the last time you saw Kamaru Usman do anything in the cage where you were like, man, what was he thinking there?
I don't know.
Right? You don't get to 15-0 by accident. You have to be able to win minutes everywhere. You have to be able to pick out that game plan that fits what your opponent does well. Colby Covington is one of the best wrestlers in the whole UFC, and he still can't take down Kamaru Usman. I know that maybe in wrestling matches, Colby might have gotten 2 points for a couple of those takedown attempts on Kamaru, but he's been credited with 0. So I see Usman being able to pick where this fight takes place. And to me, that is the biggest factor of consideration here, because I don't think Edwards is better conditioned than Kamaru Usman. I think Kamaru Usman is the more powerful striker, and I think Kamaru Usman's the much more dangerous wrestler. So where does Leon win this fight? I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, it's Usman.
I think if Muhammad Usman, is Kamaru's brother, maybe stepped in for Kamaru here, maybe Edwards would have an opportunity to win. But outside of that, I'm with you. I just don't really see a path to victory for Edwards. I don't see him knocking out Usman. Usman's never even been knocked down. I don't see him submitting Usman. Usman's only lost is by submission, but a long time ago. And then the minute winning ability for Usman, I don't know. So yeah, I like Usman here. He's a decent sized favorite, and as he should be. He opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 340. Edwards opened up plus 250. Is currently plus 280. We do have some props here. We have the over/under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 minus 155. The under 4.5 plus 125. The fight goes decision minus 165. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 165. Typically, when you look at Usman, you look at Usman to win and win by decision. Maybe that 4-5 decision, but my goodness, dude, this guy is showing off some incredible power his last couple fights. 2 knockdowns against Colby Covington, a knockdown and a knockout against Jorge Masvidal, who's never been knocked out. 2 knockdowns against Gilbert Burns. 2 knockdowns against Colby Covington and a knockout in their first fight as well. I don't know if I want to bet a decision prop here with the power Usman showing off, but I think decision's probably most likely. I don't know if I'll bet it, and if anything, maybe Usman as a parlay piece. Any way you're looking at this fight, Weezy?
Yeah, I mean, the money line is probably a really good parlay piece here. But yeah, it's hard to see Leon finding a way to win this fight. Like I say, Kamaru is just so smart. He keeps the fights where he wants them to be. He's got the skills to be able to do that, the conditioning to be able to push the kind of pace he needs to push. So Leon Edwards has never been finished, 3 career losses. So he's fought a very high level of competition here in the UFC. Maybe Kamaru Usman by decision would be the best way to look at this, but it would be a sweat the way this dude is hitting lately. And, and Kamaru Usman's never even been knocked down in 15 fights in the UFC, never even been knocked down. Been in there with guys like Masvidal, been in there with some real power punchers like Gilbert Burns. So, yeah, I love Usman here. He's definitely one of my favorite fighters, one of the most dominant champions in any division in this sport.
Yep, sounds good. And love betting on fighters with good fight IQ. Love betting on fighters with good cardio, and love betting on fighters who do what they need to do to get the win. And that is exactly Kamaru Usman. So I'm going to try going forward to avoid betting on fighters that don't do that. Like Lupita Godinez, Martin Budai, fighters like that. So, Weezy, any final thoughts for the card? Any final thoughts?
Great fights here. Probably a lot of violence from what I'm seeing on this card, and that's been the theme for the last couple of weeks before this one as well. The other thought, Brady, is that 12 straight weeks of UFC, we have got a much-needed break coming up here. And I think that's going to do me a world of good to get me through the end of the year, get a week off here, kind of catch up on some sleep. But this is a great way to end this 12-week stretch, and I can't wait for this main event.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, that is about all I got. So Weezy, this is a pay-per-view card, 278, last one before a nice little week off here. And the books have no props out. I think they deserve a shame.
They absolutely do deserve a shame. And let's have the chat shame them as well. Shame. We've been working for 12 straight weeks. This is 12 straight weeks of Stat Diggers. Were we ever late? Did we ever not show up, Brady? Huh?
No.
No.
I put up the wrong ticker. There we go. Shame.
Yeah, shame. Shame.
Yep.
Shame on the bookies.
It is
I'm
insane.
going to do my prop template right now and put that on my Patreon. And I need some lines to put into that prop template. So let's go, books. This is a pay-per-view card. Time to make some markets here. Get out in front of it. Do your job. Brady and I are doing ours. Our chat, over 300 people in here right now. They're doing theirs. They're looking for these lines. Time for you guys to do yours.
I hope so. Hopefully they get him out by tonight. I am ready. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning last night, very motivated to get all this done and just taped all day. So I'm already done. I already got all my plays ready to go. Just need some lines to make some bets. So before we get out of here, Weezy, let the people know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the rest of the week. I know we have probability tomorrow on Monday, and I know you have just a tip on Tuesday, and then some Ask Weezy, and then you're going to be done for a week off, and I cannot wait for this week off.
Yeah, you can find me on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show, every Saturday for the Watch Along with Boston Nick and the boys. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, every Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy, every Wednesday night at 10:30 Central Time for Ask Weezy. And then you can also find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel with Lou Betya, with Monk Maddox, with you, Brady, and we will be doing probability with my prop template tomorrow night after the Die Hard MMA podcast, and we're going to give you a data-driven look into all the time props that they better pray they release. Otherwise, I am going to be writing a strongly worded letter to my congressman.
And they won't do anything about it, right?
No, I don't think they will.
Yeah, they won't even read it.
That would be minus 10,000 that my congressman will do nothing about it. But absolutely. I'm probably still going to write the letter because that's how pissed off I'll be.
Yeah, they should have him out. It's a pay-per-view. Come on. All right. You guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown will be out tomorrow. Dana White's Contender Series coming out tomorrow as well on the MMA Engine. Me and Lou Betya going live talking about some Contender Series bets and then probability with Weezy after the Die Hard MMA podcast. So lots going on. Busy week as always. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm getting really close to that 20,000 subs here on Pub Sports Radio. So do appreciate all the support, all the likes, all the subs. Does go a long way. And best of luck for UFC 278. Let us make some money and end this 12-week stretch on a high note. See you guys later.